Hi, I'm Jason Rivervale, and in this video we're going to be going through your daily walk-around check. Now this walk-around check is completed every time that you take the vehicle out, in the morning or before every journey. Rivervale do have an app where you can complete all of your walk-around checks on. You might be watching this vehicle video on there. If you aren't, then just head over to www.rivervale.co.uk/minibus. Using feedback from organisations who attended our minibus management course, we have put together a list of basic checks that need to be made by the driver before they take the minibus out on the road. This is in addition to weekly checks and minibus safety inspections. Completing these checks will not only help prevent problems when out on the road, but also protect drivers from being held accountable for issues such as scrapes, dents and bald tyres. You may not realise it, but it's the driver who will be fined and lose points on their licence if they're pulled over by the police or the DVSA for something like a bald tyre. Each bald tyre could cost you £2,500 and 3 points on your licence, so it's really worth spending 5 minutes to complete this check. Now you know why these checks are important, let's move on to actually completing them. So now we just want to jump on board and put all of our lights on. So now that I'm in the cab, I just want to turn all the lights on. So I'm going to start by putting the ignition on. Then I'm going to turn all of my lights on. I'm going to put my front and my rear fog lights, my full beams, and my hazard warning lights. While I'm in this seat, I'm going to also check my windscreen wash to make sure that my windscreen wash works. I'm going to make sure that the brake pedal doesn't feel spongy or go all the way to the floor. If this was a manual vehicle, I would also check the clutch, make sure that the clutch can be pressed all the way to the floor. And now I just want to jump out and start at the front of the vehicle. So I just want to make sure that all of the lights are obviously working, they're all illuminating. I want to make sure that the vehicle has a number plate. I want to make sure that there's no kind of spillages or anything underneath the vehicle. I also want to make sure it's not lopsided at all. Make sure that it does look like a minibus, have 2 wing mirrors, 2 windscreen wipers, and a windscreen that's all intact without any breakages. Now what I want to do is start making my way around the vehicle. I'm going to start with this side. I'm going to make sure that the indicator on the wing mirror is obviously flashing at me. I want to make sure that I check the tyres. Now on the tyres, they have what they call tread depth indicators. Now that's a little rubber bulge, and along here you'll find some arrows, and the arrows just indicate where that bulge is. So I just basically find the bulge. That bulge is set at 2 mil, so I know if everything is above that, I know I've got plenty of tread on my tyre. It does need to be over the centre 3/4. I also want to make sure there's no cuts or bulges on the tyre, and basically that the mud flaps and that the sidewalls are all in good working condition. Now that I've checked that tyre, I want to start working my way around the vehicle. So I just want to look down the profile of the vehicle and make sure that there's no damage, that all the sides are intact, that there's no damage on obviously the paintwork, that all the windows are obviously in good condition. I'll check this tyre just like I checked that one. So I'm finding my tread depth indicator, making sure that obviously there's plenty of tread on board the tyre over the centre 3/4, making sure the mud flaps are obviously in good condition. And now obviously I can make my way around to the back of the vehicle. Now back here, I'm just making sure that all of the lights are obviously working and in good condition. They're flashing at me. I also want to make sure that the back doors can be opened. Make sure that obviously the bumper is in good condition. Now, I want to do this side, make sure that again, this is obviously flashing at me. All of my lights that I turned on at the beginning are on and working. Now 2 more tyres to go. While I'm back here, I just want to make sure that obviously the profile of the vehicle, just like we did on the other side, is in good condition. There's no damage. The windows are obviously there and present without any breakages. Again, find the tread depth indicator. Make sure that there's got plenty of tread on the tyre. Mud flap, make sure that's present. Sidewall are obviously in good condition. Now, some tyres on the rear might have twin axles, so just make sure that we are checking both tyres if there is a twin axle there. This vehicle is just the 1 axle. So now I'm basically making my way around back to the front of the vehicle. Again, making sure that this wing mirror is flashing at me. And lastly, the last tyre, making sure that there's plenty of tread on there. I'm also making sure that our Section 19 permit is displayed in the window of the vehicle, it's in date, and it's valid for the organisation we're driving for. Now that we've done a full loop of the vehicle, we made sure that all 4 tyres have got plenty of tread. We made sure all of our lights are working, everything is flashing at us. We just want to jump into the back of the vehicle now. We want to make sure that the side step is working so everybody can get brought on board okay. We want to make sure now that we're in the back that all of our seatbelts are present and correct, so there's a seatbelt for every seat. We also want to make sure that our seats are nice and sturdy. If you've got any seats that can be removable, we just want to make sure that obviously they've been put back in and that they're secure and fitted correctly and not rocking. We want to make sure that we've got our brake glass hammers, so if we want to break any of the brake glass windows for an emergency, we've got them present and correct. Whilst I'm also on board, I'm making sure there's a fire extinguisher. On board this vehicle, it is just under the passenger seat, and I'm making sure that there is a first aid kit, which is just on the inside of this door. Once I've checked all of those side of things, I'm happy that the back of the vehicle has been signed off, and I'm happy to basically get driving. We do also want to make sure that it is clean, that there's no debris, that there's obviously no rubbish or anything kind of rolling around the floor of the minibus, just to make sure that when we're driving it's not going to come into contact with any of our passengers. But that's the rear of the vehicle. Now lastly, I just want to check back on board the cab and just do my last couple of checks. Once completed the back, I want to make sure I stow the side step back correctly. We don't want to be driving around with our side step out, so we just want to make sure that this one is manual, so we push it back in. And then also make sure that our side door is obviously closed and safe. So now that I'm back in the cab, I just want to make sure that there's no warning lights on the dashboard. Make sure nothing is kind of come up or staying on after the engine's been turned on. Now I do just want to push my foot down on the brake to make sure it's not spongy, it doesn't go all the way to the floor. I do also want to check that my handbrake is on, and I can see that by obviously this sign on the dashboard. We do have our first aid kit. I just want to make sure everything is in date and that everything is obviously usable. If anything is out of date, that's something I would report to the office. I also want to make sure with my fire extinguisher that the needle's within the green and that it's got plenty of pressure. Now while I'm in the cab, I do just need to check my brake lights. Now to check my brake lights, I could use a colleague to go behind the vehicle while I'm pushing the brake pedal to make sure that they're obviously working, or I could back up to a reflective surface like a car or a window, and that way I can use the reflection. I can look over my shoulder out the back windows, or I can use my mirrors to see that it's obviously illuminating in the reflective surface. So the last 2 checks I do is I just want to make sure I've got sufficient fuel for the journey, so I know that I'm going to make it. We always want to make sure that we've got fuel on board the vehicle, so we're not having to stop with passengers on board. And then I just want to basically check myself. I always ask myself a couple of questions before I start driving, and the first one is, do I feel okay? And the second one is, do I feel fit to drive? And if I answer both yes to those questions, my walk-around check is done and we're ready to go. Don't forget, Rivervale have an app to help you complete all of these checks, so just please download it now to have a look. It's on rivervale.co.uk/minibus. Thank you so much for your time.